quarantine podcast about music, 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 quarantine podcast about music.
We're about to do a live podcast. I don't fucking know.
Bald head like a baby ass.
In requested.
Am I in?
Oh, there we go. How's it going?
Oh, I'm in. All right, what's up?
Nice. I'm just gonna try something here.
Okay.
Am I sideways now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to put my headphones on, but whatever.
Yeah. Does it matter? I don't have headphones on. I don't know how.
No, not really.
Okay.
It's gonna be like phone quality audio, but whatever.
It's what's being said that counts. It's not the quality of the audio.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is episode 4 of Happy Fun Music Time. It can start in 2 minutes, and we're gonna do some fan requests, and then we're gonna do our top 5 albums.
God, those requests, man. So I just to quickly preface this, like 95% of the requests were trolls. So this was the most excruciating. I know we have to do them, but it was the most excruciating.
Yeah,
like last 2 days of my life listening to well, we'll get to who they were, but you can imagine just the control.
Absolutely, yeah. I got a notepad open here, so I got the list of requests and then just some notes on everything else.
Oh, good. Yeah, you can be more organized. I just have a Spotify list here with all the songs in it. I didn't write anything down.
I would have just forgotten what to talk about if I didn't have this in front of me. So
no, good. You can direct the conversation. The best part about this is I don't have to wear pants.
Oh, amazing!
I'm wearing a Jeopardy hoodie and no pants.
Yeah.
So I'm just Instagramming my head.
Yeah, it was hard for me to get a good camera angle that isn't like a zoom in on my face. It's on like a stack of CDs right now and just like pointed at me.
I should do that. I'm just holding it. Actually, it's a good idea. I should put this down. Let me stay here. Is there a spot I can put this? That's actually not bad. It's balancing on a flashlight.
Yeah.
So if it falls down, then
Is like my fan going off too loudly?
I can't hear it at all.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so it's 9 o'clock. It's fun time starting.
It got 2 viewers.
Yeah, hell yeah. So this is episode 4, top albums of 2019. Myself and Alex Salas, Happy Fun Time Music podcast. I'm gonna actually try and like pin the account to the live stream.
Oh, good. You can do that. Good. You're more technologically adept than me.
Well, let's see if I even can. That'll be fun. If I write that, and can I pin it? I am a boomer.
You're doing better than me. I didn't know this was even an option.
Happens if I do that. Nope, not that. All right, who cares? Like, no one's going to follow that page anyways. So we have a bunch of fan requests. I'm going to just start from the top. The first fan request was She Bangs by William Hung. Even though that's from like 04, you know what? It was a great request. It's probably the best William Hung song off his legendary album Inspiration. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I love William Hung. I mean, he's my LinkedIn buddy. The only song that I think comes close to She Bangs is Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Which I discovered, as you know, in the midst of preparing for this, I ran across William Hung's summer album, Miracle, which I didn't know existed.
Yeah,
so his cover of Take Me Out to the Ball Game definitely rivals She Bangs for me, but solid song by the Hung.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy too. He has all his nice little intros and interludes, Miracle moment, Summer moment. And final moment. You know what? Maybe I'm gonna play Summer Moment. It's 22 seconds.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. Play it.
Yeah. Can you hear that?
Time for
Yeah.
fun and enjoyment.
All right.
My favorite things about summer are hanging out with friends and family and enjoying the nice weather. I hope you have lots of fun and great memories with this summer in the sun.
That's
really nice.
That should be the intro to this show, in my opinion.
Yeah, just for every episode, we should just have that.
Just play that. Oh God! So that's William Hung. He's
Yeah.
great, and if he can bite a wall, his face is so flat.
Absolutely. Going down the list, someone just asked us to do like our own porn star names, even though it's not like a music request. But I just figured it was worth hearing out. And like, how do you even do that? Like, I don't know, like the Brian Stars methodology. Like, do you take like your street name and then like your first dog's name or something like that?
I don't know.
Like,
I like personally for my porn name, I'm just gonna go with like William Hung for my porn name. I think that's a pretty good name in and of itself. I'm not sure what the formula is that you can arrive at a scientifically I don't know sound porn name with, but I kind of just like Bill Hung or like Hung for the Holidays. It's something involved.
That's your Christmas special, right?
Yeah, that's my Christmas porn tape.
Yeah.
Hung for the Holidays. Yeah, I don't know. What was your porn name? I'm just ripping off pop music legends.
Fair enough. According to the internet, I have to take my middle name and then the name of my first pet. So that would make my porn star name like John Sabrina, Crofton Jenny.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I kind of like
So
John Sabrina. So that you don't like usually have a guy that has like a female first name as a last name. So that's kind of unique.
that's it. Yeah, that's actually that's believable.
Yeah. So that I'd go under John Sabrina, and the bootleg Blu-rays would be distributed as they would be. All right, so that I don't know. That's
There's nothing to do
I've
with
mined
that.
that to the orb. Next up is 3 singles from famous pop legend Maddie B. Raps.
Who I had never heard of before this, and I kind of wish I had never heard of him. Actually, I'm kind of this was the worst part about doing this.
I saw his music video like forever ago, and I just thought it was Jacob Sartorius. I just thought they were the same person, but, like his evil twin or something.
Well, yeah, they're very similar. Neither of them are. They're no William Hung. Either of these guys. They're not even a Mary Roach, might I add. They have. Yeah, that's a reference. Yeah, I think I don't know. It just was bad. Like I don't know what else to say. It's like teen pop. That's got some guys preening over it who are like in middle school. I mean, it's how good is that ever going to get?
And like I think all 3 of these had music videos, so I went and kind of I did my research. Right? Like what was the one? There was one. It's like where he dates a really ugly girl, and then there's one where he's like 16 and like it's called Monsters because he has monsters under his bed. Like
I do remember that one, the monsters under the bed thing.
Like I filled my G2. I have skeletons in my closet.
Yeah, and Story of Our Lives was one of the tracks, right, that we had to listen to, and there was Beautiful in there, and they all sounded the same. Like I had them in a row going on Spotify, and I like didn't know when one ended, and I was like, oh, I'm halfway through the next song already. This is not going well.
Fun. It would be fun to like play all 3 songs at once and like set up like a surround sound system, and then just like fully absorb it. Maybe have like all 3 music videos playing.
Like the Nickelback thing where you have 2 songs playing out of each speaker or one song.
Oh yeah, How You Remind Me and the other like, but How You Remind Me on The Long Road, like the album after.
Yeah. You could definitely do that with Maddie Braps. I thought it was Maddie Braps, and then I realized like 10 minutes later, oh, Maddie B. Raps. Oh God.
Yeah, and I just like I have to go away like from my own face for a second because like this guy has an extremely punchable face. Like
He looks like a skinhead.
yeah, I get angry when I look at that photo. Like
Yeah, he's a photogenic lad. I mean, come on, it's
yeah.
You can't hold the DNA against the man.
No, I guess I can't, and you know
Yeah.
I'm also like I'm a 26-year-old like ripping on a 16-year-old that's had a more successful music career than me.
Well, how do we define success? I mean, that's the question. I would prefer to listen to anything from Trojan Horse Trial over anything by Maddie Braps. Not that that's like a huge compliment because it's Maddie Braps, but I have to say I think you've had a more successful musical.
It's a
career.
compliment all in the same. I appreciate that, and that same goes to you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and that's it. It's a weird like kind of upbringing to have, like, because you're like a 9-year-old and you kind of get like forced. You stumble into like a hip hop single, and then like that's how you grow up, like, because your brain's not developing yet, right?
Oh yeah. Well, it's something that's foreign to most of us, I think, growing up.
Yeah, that's I don't know how you come out of that without being like a kind of a weirdo, but you know, I've never talked to the guy. I didn't watch an interview of that, but.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about him until it was Serena who threw that up, right? That you said that she was the one who recommended those to you.
Yeah, she did. She recommended the.
It's not the devil who holds my soul. No.
Sorry, what?
I just said she should recommend something good like William Hung next time. Like God.
Yeah, or
Interesting.
I wanted a Jacob Sartorius recommendation. But
Yeah, God. The Last Text. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Then I really
All
would
right.
be wearing pants.
Let's move on. I don't like I keep having that like JPEG I put on the screen like in my head. I gotta
Sorry, we're
kinda
spending an awful long time on Maddie B. Raps. Okay, let's move
little
on.
Purell to the dome. So next up is Aubrey Drake Graham, the Best in the World pack. The two-song EP he put out. Oh, right on time. The 2-song EP he put out when the Raptors won the NBA championship. And you know what? Like, I liked it more when it came out because like the Raptors won. It was kind of hype. Like the trophy was on the album cover, right? Like, you know, and I'm like,
yeah.
like, but you know, I go back and listen to it now, and like it's good that it's like 7 minutes. It kind of ends quickly, and like I like the beat on Omerta. That's like an okay song, but like I don't like Money in the Grave, and that's half the EP. So I gotta give it the 5 out of 10 because I don't like half.
Oh, okay. So the other song was a 5 out of 5. Okay. Do you have that? Do you have that blam sound that you can play at any point during this? I want some blam action for this Drake EP if we can get it.
You know what? I don't, but I'm gonna come up with a substitute real quick.
Okay.
Well,
While you find the blam, I will just say the thing with Drake to me is he just always sounds bored, and it's not an authentic kind of disinterest. He's like putting on this air of like uncaring. It's just very artificial to me, and it's like, oh, I'm so above all of you that I don't need to put effort into this. And it's very like rote, a lot of what he's doing, like the lyrics, and it's very like
you find it superficial.
I find the air of there. It's almost like it's like a pretension about him that I find in a lot of his stuff that I just don't. I just find irritating, especially when he's not backing that up with anything that's actually musically unique in any way. He's just it's very standard. It's very boilerplate. Like,
I find he's had his heights. He's had his heights. Like he put out that mixtape. If you're reading this, it's too late. And like I thought, Take Care. Like I thought they were good albums, but then sort of like recent Drake, like you have the double album Scorpion and More Life, which is like his playlist, which is like just a bunch of songs of him ripping off other people. They're both way too long. they do the sort of like braggadocious stuff, like you're mentioning, sort of a pretentious air about him that he hasn't deserved on the album, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's gotten kind of tired and complacent as of recent. So I do think he's had his heights, but sort of this EP, the last two projects, like I think you're on the money. I think it is boilerplate. You're correct.
It's just, yeah, there's nothing. That's why I just wanted a blam. I just wanted a big fat blam on this one.
Oh, okay. Well, I got this. Hold on.
No, God!
That works.
No, God, please, no! No! No!
Yeah. All right. So that's that. That's a quick one because it's only 2 songs. Next up, we've got Chris Brown, Indigo Extended Edition, a 42-song behemoth. It's really just 42 copies of the exact same song. I listened to the original in like 5 separate sittings like a year ago. I don't remember a thing from this project. Like, there's a song with Drake where they have like a dance off, which like I guess the video is kind of funny. Like that's all right. I like the song "Come Together."
The Beatles, yeah, great track.
The Chris Brown cover of it.
We're talking about Chris Brown.
It's also just like it's just his own song, but other than that, I don't really have anything nice to say. It's too long. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. Like for my like kind of studying playlist to do this podcast, like it took up like 30% of the playlist. Like, and it's I don't know. I find it disrespectful to the listener. Like, why put out 42 songs? Like, pick your best 20. Pick your best 15. Like,
yeah.
And make another project. I don't know. Like, they all sound exactly the same. I don't know. Do you even like? I said don't bother listening to the whole thing, but do you even listen to like a song off this? Like,
yeah, I listened to a couple of the tracks. What about "Don't Check on Me" with Justin Bieber? You weren't a fan of those overly processed vocals and that like delicious looped guitar riff that they had going on there?
You know what? Like, the man can sing. I don't know why he needs to be auto-tuned. Like, he's a good R&B singer. Not like the songs are good, but I've heard him sort of sing tracks that aren't like super like kind of liquidy process sounding, and I couldn't tell Justin Bieber was on the song. That actually came up on my shuffle. He just sort of like sings behind Chris Brown. Like,
it's just this is the kind of music that just makes me question like life more broadly, where it's like
liquidy,
it goes on, like you said, forever. Oh, liquidy in the chat. Yeah, liquidy. Yeah. It just goes on, and I wonder who would sit there and listen to 3 hours of this. Where like who in the world has the pay other than Chris Brown himself and his like extended family? Who has the time or the inclination to spend that amount of their life on what is nothing noteworthy at all? Like even at its best, it just seemed to me just totally boring. But you know.
If I was in Chris Brown's extended family and like he like handed me this project to listen to, like all 42 songs, like I wouldn't listen to it like unless like I was a woman and like I felt like my personal safety was being threatened by him. Like,
you know, so Rihanna would listen to this, is what you're saying.
Yeah. If they were like alone or something, and like I think I'd rather get beat up actually than have to listen to this. Like, front to back.
Oh my God. I do like that he named it after a bookstore, though. That was good.
Sorry, what?
I like that he named it after a bookstore.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's his next hit is going to be Chapter.
That dad joke caught me off guard there.
Sorry, I snuck that one in.
Fair enough.
In true Chris Brown fashion, I snuck that one in.
Yeah, it's a very self-falating project. Like he thinks that like all of these songs are worth putting on, even though they're all just copies of one another. I'd have to give it a 3 out of 10. When I like first heard it, I gave it a 5. But like going back to it with like 10 extra tracks, like I have to go down 2 points.
This is a big fat 0, and
0.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I'm giving this a big old goose egg.
Big old goose egg, 0.
Yeah.
And just to answer your question about who would listen to this other than Chris Brown himself, it would be my friend who recommended this, but I'm not going to say his name on the podcast.
What?
Yeah.
Which friend? Sorry.
I'll review. He hasn't joined the podcast to hear this.
Oh, okay.
This harsh.
When he does, tell him so I can insult him, like,
Okay.
viciously for making me listen to this.
I think he deserves it.
Oh yeah, no. He deserves to be beat up.
That's Indigo. And all we have left is Tyler, the Creator, Igor, which was recommended by a fellow channel, Espresso Music, my good friend Ferran.
Oh.
I thought this was a cool album. It was kind of like a record that was tailor-made, like for Anthony Fantano to give like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
But like it's good. Like the beats are cool. Like what I have written down here, "What's Good" is a neat track, and the second half of "Gone Gone Thank You," he has a nice verse there, and he produced it all himself. I think so. He's like this big producer type of dude. I'm more partial to Scumfuck Flower Boy because I thought the beats were nicer, but it's good. I enjoy it. It's not like a top 5 of the year, but I thought it was a good piece. I don't know. Did you listen to it at all?
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing. I think this was probably the only suggestion that actually had any, like, other than William Hung, that had any like musical merit to it at all. And Igor, I think, is a good album. There's a consistency to the sonic presentation throughout. It doesn't go in a million directions. There's a distinct atmosphere to the songs, and to me it's very 80s. I get a very almost like I'm playing through Grand Theft Auto Vice City when I listen to this.
That would be like on one of the radio stations. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It gives me that kind of that vibe. And I do think that there is like some interesting musical stuff going on this record. On Earthquake, there's some cool vocals, and his lyrics are. You can contrast what he's doing on Igor with Drake, who's doing nothing on the totally vapid 2-song frickin' whatever it was EP. It's a cut above. And I thought it was really good. And I'm not the biggest hip hop fan ever, as you know. It's not a genre that, when I like hip hop, I tend to identify with the non hip hop elements in the hip hop, which then makes me appreciate hip hop.
You kind of have like sort of a leaning towards like the more industrial side of hip hop, which so I figured you'd kind of like this because it kind of has that sort of new school industrial Kanye West, Childish Gambino, like that's sort of what it sounds like, and like kind of like talking like. I figured it would be somewhat in your wheelhouse, at least, like more so than Best in the World Pack and Indigo.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a little more thought that's been put into this, I think, than something that's been spit out because the Raptors won a championship. Yeah, I mean, I think this was pretty good. I don't think it was perfect. I think there's an odd interlude there. It's like 15 seconds long. That doesn't need to be there. It gets a little bit monotonous towards the end. There's a longer song in there that goes on, but on the whole, I mean, good album, and the instrumentals are cool. They're great. So yeah, I like Igor.
He did a good job. I'd go like anywhere. I'd go 6, 7 out of 10. One of those. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like a 7 or an 8 for me.
Nice. All right. So we actually just blew through all the requests. So we'll just answer a few questions here, and then we'll take a quick break. I don't know how to use this at all.
Yeah,
say the name. No, I'm not going to say the name. Say the name. I'm not going to say the
name.
Elise Langer, what are you idiots doing? Hi, Elise. This is the music podcast that Alex and myself do. We just do random topics and we talk about them because we both really, really like music. That's like the motto of this podcast.
Yeah, it's a quarantine special.
Yeah. Another question: who recommended Indigo? I'm not going to say.
I think you should say. I don't see why not at this point.
At the end of the episode, I'll say the name.
Good. Yeah.
You have to watch the whole episode again.
You got to give some incentive for people to keep watching.
Yeah, that'll be the reveal, and then I'll link his account at the end of the video.
Oh, good. Yeah, then people can send him hate mail.
Yeah, miss you too, Elise. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, so I think I'm ready for a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back. How does that sound?
All right, sure. We can do 5 minutes. I can drink my bubbly.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Take care. All right, we're back.
Yes. Okay. That.
So, each of us picked 5 albums that were our favorite of 2019, and we were just gonna go through them. We each listened to each other's records, and then we'll give a little summary of them. I don't know how to speak right now, but yeah. So maybe you can go first. I've been talking a lot. Pick one, or I don't know if you ordered them or not, but.
Well, I can sure I can go for my number 5. So yeah, top 5 albums from 2019, and my number 5. Let me just scroll down here, so I'm scroll up the order. My number 5 is one of the coolest albums of all time. I mean, it's just so cool. Just the concept of it is great. It is 4 Japanese ladies playing in a hardcore punk band. And it's not like watered down in any way. It's really authentic, and it's aggressive, and it's good, and it's just so like badass. That's the best way I can describe this. It is, and I also don't. I'm going to screw up the pronunciation of this because I don't know.
I can't do it either.
Yeah, so the band is Otoboke Beaver, or Otoboke Beaver, something like that, and then it's Itekoma Hits. Itekoma Hits. Itekoma, Itekoma, whatever. Pronunciation doesn't matter because music is the universal language.
Yeah.
And this communicates so nicely. It's so fun. It's not too long. It's just hit after hit, appropriately with the album title. And there's like, I love the vocal performance on this album because it is so aggressive and there's no frills to it at all. It's very
lots of energy. Yeah,
it's energetic. There's not a lot of production being put into it, and that's the way I like hardcore punk. I think that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be overly adorned and silly and all this stuff. So yeah, I love this album. It's so fun. What did you think of this album?
Before I start, do you have a favorite song? I could play like 30 seconds of it.
Oh, my favorite one's probably "Love Is Short." That's my favorite one off this album.
All right, let's here. I'll play like the first 30 seconds so people get an idea.
Oh, sure. I forgot we can do that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So this album, I really liked this album. It was very refreshing. I thought the instrumental performances were really good. I was surprised by that. The production, the mix is really nice. You know what? I'm gonna just be regurgitating a lot of what you said. Like the runtime, like it's like a good runtime. It doesn't overstay its welcome, kind of for this kind of music. Like I think a 25-30 minute runtime is pretty good. I like the song titles. I'm surprised most of them are in English, despite them singing in Japanese. Like they're kind of funny. They have a sense of humor that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, my one critique would be like I had a bit of trouble differentiating the songs just because like the language barrier and like it's a hardcore punk album. But
yeah,
you know, it kind of ended before I could really take issue with that. So no, I really liked it. out of like sort of your top 5 that I listened to, it's probably the one I had the most fun with. Like, it's maybe my second favorite, but just for pure enjoyment factor, it's number 1. But yeah, that I really liked it. It very high energy. I haven't really heard anything like that in a while. Usually, like when you have those kind of vocals, it's like K-pop or something. Like,
Yeah.
so this was a nice like sort of new direction that I haven't heard before.
It's so badass. It's so cool. Like you said, the energy, and it's true that the songs do sound similar throughout, but I mean, to me, that is part of the hardcore punk ethos, right? Of hitting you repeatedly for a relatively short duration of time, but keeping it simple and punchy, and not overthinking it too much. This album just did that for me throughout consistently, and the key is the songs can sound the same, the songs can sound different, whatever, but does it hold your attention? And this one held my attention.
Yeah.
It held my attention. It left me actually wanting more. So that's a success in my book.
No, absolutely. Should I go?
Yeah, go with your, what's your number 5?
So next up, I got my number 5, which was really tough for me to pick because recently I heard the new JPEG Mafia. So that, like, I was kind of like, should I put this in my list? But like, I've only listened to it once, like, it'd be kind of aggressive. But I ended up going with Clear Soul Forces. I think they're like a New Jersey hip hop group or something. The album's called Still. Sort of a lot of boom bap, hardcore hip hop. I think 4 or 5 like really talented MCs. I found them off of one of them. His name's Novelist. It's a great album. It's fairly short. It's really concise runtime, and they're all very technically gifted rappers. And sort of a lot of like comic and video game references, like kind of just a lot of nerd shit that rappers don't really do. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and the beats were all really good. I've listened to them for a little while, and I think it's their best album. So I had to put it here because that versus sort of like the American football album, the JPEG Mafia album. Like, I'm gonna go listen to Clear Soul Forces 8 times out of 10 because it's more fun for me. But you heard it. I think you liked it. So what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like this one. It's very replayable, like you said. It doesn't take itself too seriously, kind of like the last album. But it's well produced. It is it's relatively concise, and it's fun. I mean, especially you get like skits at the end of some of these songs. Like,
yeah, that's true.
What's the one with the great skit at the end? I think Kick It has a great hilarious.
Where the guy's getting angry, right?
Yeah, involving some racy language, but it's fun. And again, like I said in the first part of this, I am not inclined usually to love hip hop. It's just a genre that's never totally connected with me.
You have some selections, but you're selective about what hip hop you listen to.
Well, yeah, because it's just I never dismiss genres like totally entirely.
What about pop punk?
Sorry?
What about pop punk?
Oh, well, I'm getting to that.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead.
I should say I try not to dismiss genres entirely, but I mean, at the end of the day, what is a genre, right? It's just a set of constraints that are set upon some sounds that you can judge however you like. And so with something as wide-ranging and varietous as hip-hop, there's so much that you can do with that as a template that I can't say that I hate everything in it, right? That's not true. And it's too many different avenues. Yeah, that's an uninformed and unlettered thing to be saying. Whereas, with something like pop punk, that's much more specific. And sure, you can add other ingredients to make it more palatable, but in a pure form, pop punk to me is like eating, poisonous weeds or something. Like, yeah, they're food, I guess, but like they're gonna kill you. I don't know. Like it's something I just think is really sickly. But anyway, to get back to this album, let's not rip on pop punk too much unless I have to.
I made a sidetrack there. It's fine.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, Clear Soul Force is good. It's a good album. I wouldn't put it in my top 5 of the year, but I think it's fun. It's an album that would, I think it would merit like a top 25 inclusion, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair.
My own personal list. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that one. I think it's a fun pick.
Yeah. But it's one I thought like a lot of people wouldn't put in their top 5 because I feel like there isn't like the sort of level of artistic and creative merit isn't like super high, but like it's just the enjoyment factor for me is just off the charts. So I had to put it there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. And I'd like to hear what your number 4 is because I don't know what order you put them in. But.
Yeah. So my number 4. My number 4 is an interesting album. My number 4 is one that I actually had at number 5, and then I switched it at the kind of the last second. And there was a couple albums in this genre that I was kind of swapping in and out of my list. It's noise, it's power noise, to be more specific. And the reason that I went with this one is I've never heard anything like this.
Yeah.
In the way that this album mixes vocals, specifically voice samples, in with this just cacophonous wall of noise and these very pulsing, heavy electronic drum beats. And when I first ran across this album, I didn't know any of the backstory behind it or what it was about or anything. I just thought it was really peculiar, and I tend to get interested in that kind of thing.
It's funny because I don't know, I know like the other 4 albums, and I still don't know which one you're gonna say. Like,
it's the most this is the most obscure of anything on my top 5. It's a band. It's actually a solo artist, but called My, and it's the artist called Nell Sud. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. Anyway, so this is it's a solo performer, as I said, from Italy. And so I didn't know this again when I first heard this. I just thought it was cool. So I looked into it. And so it's actually a performance art piece. So this is meant to be played with film in the background. And so it is.
It's kind of like a quasi soundtrack. Like.
Yeah. So this really is like the guy on his Bandcamp calls it a soundtrack, right? And what's his real name? It's Tony Catrone is his real name.
Okay.
Anyway, so he has these sort of Italian documentaries and films going on while he plays this noise. And so it's sort of like a study of where he grew up, like Southern Italy, the cinema that came out of there. And what it results in is just this really odd but like weirdly engrossing mix of just like, again, noisy beats, this pulsing kind of these kicks that just rattle your headphones, and these samples that are really eerie. And I mean, it's hard to even tell what they're doing a lot of the time, which is good. That just contributes to this sort of otherworldliness and general like sense of dread that you get when you listen to this, which I
felt that.
Yeah, was what I gather he's kind of going for here, with a lot of the history of the region and a lot of stuff. And you can read more about it on his Bandcamp. He talks about paganism and all this stuff. Catholicism.
Gives you some context on it, yeah.
Yeah, because this is the kind of album where it is like if you hear it out of like you just lit like I did, you just hear it. It's sort of like you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But that's no fault of the listener's own, right? The job of the music really is to kind of want you to delve into it further. Which for me, this album did that, and so ultimately that's why I put it on this list over some of the other noise albums that I heard, which might have been more like inventive sonically, but the concept of this one was just cool enough that I threw it on here. So. Yeah, I don't know what you thought of that album, but it's different for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, like you with hip hop, I've dabbled in like the harsh noise, power noise. I don't really know the difference between the two, but I listen to about as much noise as you do hip hop. I think it's a fair comparison. The first time I heard this, I mean, it was after I heard, I think, 2 of the other albums you haven't mentioned yet that are similar in some way.
Yeah.
And you know, it's short. It's like 25 minutes or so, right? So after it ended, I was like, you know, what was that? I didn't really like know what to make of it, sort of positive or negative, right? It kind of just hit me over the head and ended before I could really gather, like, I feel good or bad about it. I threw it into the playlist. I shuffled it a bit more. You know, it's sort of, with repeated listens, it's a bit of a grower. I had sort of like an average opinion of it at first. It was like, I probably wouldn't go back to this, but like, nothing about it was really bad. And then as I listened to it more, it did start to grow on me a little bit more. Mm-hmm. It was, out of all of them, it was the one that confused me the most.
Yeah,
the others I sort of had I kind of had a handle on what was going on. Like, this album is perpetuating this vibe and doing this, like, just to expect, right? This is probably the one I have like the least sort of specific thoughts on, but it was compelling.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I mean I like polarization when I listen to music or watch a movie or look at a painting or whatever. So, and that's why I gravitate to noise or to extreme metal or to very quiet things like minimalism, right? And to answer your question, so power, the difference between power and harsh noise. So power noise is noise, with an electronic beat generally to it. So it can also be called like rhythmic noise. Some people call it.
So it has the inclusion of like rhythm instruments, let's say.
Yeah. So power noise is like Murs beats, right? It's kind of like a power noise record where there's discernible rhythm more to it versus a harsh noise album that would be, well, you know, harsh noise. It's just
1930, the title track. Like that.
Yeah. There's no rhythm to it and seemingly no rhyme or reason to it. So that's really the difference between them. But yeah, no, this is just it's again, very interesting record. I think that if you're inclined at all to look into like just like very off-putting kind of weirdly fascinating albums, I think that Nell Sood is one that you can look into by my mind. It's on Spotify, and a lot of these underground kind of noise records that I find aren't actually on Spotify. So that was another reason kind of that I put it on here, because I knew you could listen to it.
And that's the thing. I enjoy this music, but a lot of it isn't like really passed my way, like through my channels and stuff. Like sort of, you know, other than like you and like nothing on Rate Your Music or like any of my friends were like, hey, like here, listen to this harsh noise album. So I just I never really sit down and listen to it often, except for now. You know, I liked the other ones more than this one, I'd say, but this I had a fairly neutral reaction to.
Hey, yeah, again, there's little judgment here, so you can react to whatever you would like. Yes. Anyway, so that is that album. What was your number 4 album? That's what I'm curious about.
My number 4, I was kind of juggling these rankings around a bit, was the newest Thank You Scientist album, Terraformer.
Okay.
It's really nothing new, and it might actually be Thank You Scientist's like weakest album, but like it still makes this list, which is saying something. Maybe I'm just this massive fan. You know, it's a cool lineup. They have like a whole sort of woodwind horn section, and like they're jazz, they're prog, they can be kind of ska, they can be super heavy, and it's basically like the closest thing I'm gonna get to like actual like progressive Coheed music, because like Coheed's sort of but it's cool. It's a little bit too long, which is why I wouldn't give it like a perfect score. It's it's a long runtime, but like the first 3 songs, the intro is really good. Fox Mulder's Swarm. My favorite song on this is probably Life of Vermin or Son of a Serpent. Those are cool. It has cool little jazzy interludes like Shatner's Lament. That's a fun song. And they sort of do this thing where they have like the traditional, Coheed and Cambria, traditional jazz soloing. Where you have the horn player do a solo, and you kind of imagine like everyone clapping, then the guitar guy does a solo. And he might be like one of the better players sort of in that whole scene right now. He's pretty incredible. Yeah. But it's long. I maybe listen to some of it. I don't even know. But I don't know. Did you have any opinions on this?
Yeah, I did listen. I do think it's another kind of fun album. I like the inclusion of the horns is really great. It adds kind of another dimension to this prog rock, prog metal, alt rock sound that you don't get very often. And they're obviously like enjoying themselves, and that's why they made an album that is like half an hour too long, because they love making this music so much. That's my biggest problem with it. I just thought it went on and on, and I got kind of tired of it. Because it's pretty dense, a lot of what's going on here. There's a lot of changes in the music, tempo changes, and a lot of instrumentation at once. So when you have that much going on, you really got to kind of vary up your techniques and your songwriting. And if you're going to have an album that's 90 minutes, something like that, this album, it's very
you have to justify the runtime.
You really have to work at that. And I feel like they could have used an editor on this one. They could have used somebody to come in and say, okay, like you can probably not put this particular song on. But
Chris Brown was probably the editor of this one.
Chris Brown would have loved it. He wouldn't have beaten them up. But yeah, I think it was good, and I do agree that this is almost like the alternative to Coheed. Now the Coheed suck. Let's be real.
Yeah, I'm getting around to that feeling.
I mean, we don't need to go into the rabbit hole of Coheed now. But anyway, digressing. I thought this was fun. I just thought it was too long. That was really my only complaint.
Yeah.
Like that is sort of kind of a fatal flaw almost, because it means it's an album I can't get through it. But if I put a song in a playlist or listen to a couple of tracks here and there, it's pretty cool. So
and that's sort of that's like what I converted that to. Like I don't listen to it in the context of I'm going to sit and listen to all of Terraformer. Like if I did that all the time, I wouldn't have time to do anything. I just put it in playlists, or I'll listen to a song off it. Cause some of them a bunch of them are 8-minute songs, so usually one of them's good enough, and I don't think any of them are like outright bad. So I only take a couple points off. It's kind of over longness.
But that's interesting in the different approaches that we took to this, right? Because I look at it as ranking an album. Like it's like my top 5 albums are back to front, like the best albums, like as a whole. Whereas I think you're looking at it more as like the songs with like the chapters in the book, right? It's like I can read one here and it's really good, and maybe it was too long, but like there were all great parts throughout, and so I can compartmentalize it more. And like neither approach is wrong. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, we do have two different. And I think like what's in there is like better than what's in like the Chris Brown one, and it's like a third of the length.
It's better than Chris Brown. We can say that definitively. But thank you, scientists.
Yeah. You have a number 3 if you want to share.
I do have a number 3. I have a number 2 I can take later too. Number 3. Okay, number 3. So let me just scroll down so I get the right list here. Yes, number 3. So my number 3 is speaking of the last album being unsettling and kind of harrowing and all those great adjectives. This album may be more uncomfortable than anything else I listened to in 2019. And that's an achievement in and of itself when you can establish an atmosphere that is that palpable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I just said, go on. Like.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So I had to include it just for that reason. And so the album is The Origin of My Depression. It's by Yuboa.
Oh, okay.
And so, I mean, this album kind of falls similarly under kind of a power noise kind of thing as the last one, although it is really more maybe, I don't know, death industrial, but genres, who cares?
Yeah.
And interestingly about this album is like it really does achieve this atmosphere, I think, so well, where it does make me really kind of almost ill listening to it because of how just creepy
Dark,
and
disturbing. Yeah.
disturbing, and it's very visceral. And I mean, so the album is about transitioning, right? Yubo is a transgender musician.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and so that's why you get your the opening track is detransitioning. Appalachian Joy is hair removal, right? And you have Please Don't Leave Me, and so Misspent Youth. So it's very like harrowing, and the cover is her on a hospital bed, and it's all very, very obviously something that I can't identify with in that way.
Yeah.
But that's really the power of music, right? Because now I get a feel for what that situation is like based on the emotions that are elicited in me from the music, which is something that is the closest to like understanding what transitioning must be like that I'm ever gonna get. So on that level, I think it really is successful. And musically, it is very accomplished. Like the song "Please Don't Leave Me" is so good, and it's like this minute 40-second noise.
It's one of my
blast.
favorites.
Yeah, it's so good, and it's like that's a great example of actually doing like a harsh noise song properly.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how to do it. So yeah, I mean, I just found this so really, really riveting from beginning to end. And you get a lot of snobs on like Rate Your Music and other websites who are going to say that, oh, it's basic death industrial. Oh, this isn't a real noise album. Oh, this is easy. Oh, like, and just like if you think this is an easy album, I don't know what world you're living in. Like, this is not an easy listen at all. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what you thought of it, but I just thought it was great. So
this was my favorite of your 5.
Yeah.
I put this at number 1, and then I put a Tobok Beaver. I can't pronounce it. I put that'll be my second one.
Yeah.
This is my favorite. Yeah, Please Don't Leave Me was incredible, and I had zero context. I didn't know it was about transitioning.
Yeah.
I just thought like this was a very bleak, disturbing album. The opener, Detransitioning, is pretty intense. Appalachian Joy, probably my favorite song.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. You know, they're sort of. I remember there being like some sparse piano kind of segments, sort of interspersed with all the noise. And like, yeah, I remember the first time I listened to Please Don't Leave Me, like, I felt like anxious almost.
Yeah.
It's too much, and like, you know, not a lot of music really makes me feel that way. I want to play a bit of Please Don't Leave Me. Like,
Yeah,
like
go for it. I mean, actually, play it from the beginning. Just play 10 seconds, because there's this thing at the start of the song where she goes like, "Ooh!" There's like a little like breath in that like comes right out of the last song, and like that is so good, and then it just blasts you right away. Yeah, play like the first 10 seconds or something.
Yeah. Jeez.
It's actually like not even. Yeah, it's actually like so loud. I don't think it's even showing up on the speaker.
This is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, great song, great album. This could go probably into one of my top lists. I think it's great.
Oh, cool.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, what I wanted to say is I used to kind of have this feeling about like Brand New when I listen to them. I know it's like a way different band, but it's
Yeah.
like I don't like want to go listen to Devil and God and like Deja Entendu because like the music is like so sad.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
good, but it's like I'm gonna feel depressed listening to this. This album, sort of similar. It's like really good, but like it makes me super anxious. Like
Hmm.
it sort of makes me feel like an intense feeling, kind of like Brand New does. You know, whether it's positive or negative, but I think like that fact in of itself sort of makes for a great album.
Yeah, no, I agree. Interesting with Brand New. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my number 3. So I am curious as to what your number 3 is.
My number 3. So I got 3 left. This is a band with a weird name and a weird album title. It's a 7-piece tech death band with a singer, 3 guitar players, bass player, drummer, and keyboardist.
Mhm.
It's basically like tech death to like its biggest, like most excessive. And you know, like people say less is more, but for me, more is more. And it's just jam-packed with soloing, blast beats, gutturals, flamenco guitar, nice keyboards, and the bass player from Beyond Creation with the fretless bass. It's a great time. You know, if you ask me for highlight tracks, like I could maybe give a couple. I like the whole thing as a whole. Maybe a couple songs too long, but you know, it goes in the same spot as Terraformer. Like I don't have to listen to it all in one sitting.
Mhm.
It is super cool, and it's, you know, some of the most technical death metal I've ever heard.
Mhm.
It's I get the vibe you found it a little bit too excessive.
Well,
But I do.
what's it called? We didn't hear what the band was or anything.
Oh, Equipoise, Demergis.
Okay, yeah.
I should have said that. Yeah, I was too busy hyping up. I forgot.
It's all right. So here's what I think about this album. I think that much like the Thank You Scientist album, it is really fun in like a small dose, kind of like the Ryan Seacrest. Like you have like one little bit of it, and it's like, okay, that's great. But this album goes on and on and on for so long that it just gets really, really grating and self-indulgent to me. And the other thing I didn't like about this album, and you know, this is an interesting thing I'm going to try and articulate right now. But so I think that this album is kind of meta aware of the fact that a lot of tech death is dense, is fast, is hard to process, and it knows that about itself enough to try and stagger these kind of nice interludes between the very heavy songs, right? So it has these kind of flamenco things, these flamenco like 2.5 minute segments that like appear between a lot of the songs. But the problem is that like it's good that it's aware of this. Like I like that this album is that self-aware, but the problem is that it just executes, I think, this pretty clumsily, and that you end up having like this very predictable flow throughout this album of, oh, here's 5 minutes of like screaming and blast beats, and then here's 2.5 minutes of the flamenco thing, and then another death metal track, and more of that. And like
You find it kind of
yeah, it gets predictable, and none of it is that distinctive in the first place. Honestly, I mean, it's cool, but it's not like blowing my mind with the tech death side either. It's serviceable. I think the bass playing's amazing because it's the Beyond Creation guys, of course.
that guy's incredible.
Yeah, but like that was my biggest problem with it as an album, right? Like again, it's just if I take a song out, it's cool, it's pretty fun, like tech death to me. But then if I listen to it as an album, it just comes off to me a little bit clunky because it's sort of taking a very easy solution to a problem that's inherent within the genre they're trying to do. They like took the easiest way to try and fix that. It's like they put like duct tape over a cracked pipe that's water kind of coming out of it.
A Band-Aid, duct tape.
Yeah. Like you need like something to kind of temper that because you're trying to do a tech death album. At least if you want to do a tech death album of this length, you need that. The alternative is to do like a half-hour long like a None So Vile by Cryptopsy or something, where it's just like 8 songs that just come in and out really quick, right?
Oh, that is true.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my issue with this one.
Yeah, and that's I don't know. Maybe I do understand the Band-Aid's point. Maybe like I find it like accomplishes the job maybe a bit better than you think. That's maybe where we differ. Because I like it because it sort of breaks up the music, but maybe like the 2 of like this full-on Tech Death songs that could have been trimmed like to make it better as an album. That's like my one thing stopping it from being like the number 1 is it's too long. Similar to Terraformer, kind of on a lesser extent, because I find there's more breaks in the music than there is in Terraformer. But yeah, and then there's songs I remember though, like in Duelis Flamel, there's like tons of guitar solos. It's like a Dragon Force like esque song. Suit of My Flesh, super funky. Squall of Souls, like I don't know, that has some of the most technical riffing. Those are probably my 3 favorite tracks. Yeah, it's a nice blast of tech death. A little too long, but it's a good time for me because I like tech death. I like excess. Yeah, so that's my number 3. I'd love to hear your number 2.
My number 2. All right. Generally has corn in it. Okay, my number 2. Will be
oh, it'll be a while.
Well, hey, I'm about to talk about a food item, so it's not totally out of place to mention my corny poops. This album, I'll just get right to it. The album is "Girl with Basket of Fruit," and it's by Juju.
Okay.
And so this is another, like, there was a theme in 2019, I guess, for me of just being very unsettled by things.
Yeah.
And so this is another album that is just very off. It's left of center. It's off-putting. It's sort of, it makes you feel uncomfortable. It makes your skin crawl while you're listening to it. And it's an album that doesn't sound like anything else I've ever heard. I mean, I can tell some of the influences that are going into this. Like, there's a big Captain Beefheart influence on this to me, with the vocal delivery and with the kind of clanging percussion instruments that are going on. But the reason that it works for me is I think that the lyrics are really, they really reinforce what's going on. Like, the lyrics are very crazy and creepy, and they really don't pull any punches, which I appreciate. So it really, it totally commits to this sound that it's good, which is totally odd. And then I think that every song works. There's not a spot on this album that really lets up to me. It's consistent. All the songs sound different, but they're all the same. But they're all you can tell they're all from the same album. And I just thought it was great. I just thought it was a really, really bold and again, strange. It is a very bold, very strange album that I can't really compare to much else I've heard. So I have to give it points for that, and in a good way. Like it's not like anything I've heard, but like in a really great way. So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious what you thought of this, because this was one that Fantano really like came all over, and so he reviewed it. It got a whole bunch of ratings, and so it popped up on a lot of best of lists. Yeah. So yeah,
I try to I try to avoid looking at reviews of stuff now before I listen to it, just because I don't know. I find the Fantano effect, the pitchfork effect, it can be real, right? It can sort of influence your opinion on an album, which I don't think that happened to you. I genuinely believe you love this album. I think it's great. I think the instrumentals. Sorry, you go ahead.
So for me, I heard this before he reviewed it. So I actually I'd heard the last Juju album where they covered all the Twin Peaks songs. So this came up in my recommended. So
I've heard about that.
Yeah, so I listened to it, and I was actually surprised he reviewed it a little bit. Actually, he'd reviewed other stuff by then. Anyway, sorry, continue.
So this album, I think it's instrumentally, I think it's great. I think it's excellent. I loved all the instrumentals. You know, my experience with this kind of music is sort of slim, so I was getting some Death Grips vibes, like weirder Death Grips.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a bit of that. But this album in particular, like, all the songs belong on the same album, but like some songs I'm like, wow, this is an amazing like 4.5 out of 5 album. Like, this is excellent. And then there's other songs where I'm like, I fucking hate this. So this was the one where it was the most like up and down. And at the end, my opinion was just sort of really mixed. Like, I like the title song. That's really good. What was it? There's one where he sort of brings in a traditional chord progression over like some really noisy instrumentals. I think it was The Wrong Thing, but I might be wrong on that.
Yeah. That was one of the slower.
Those songs stuck out to me. Ice Cream Truck was decent. And then there's songs like our Margie Vemu. I don't even know how to say that. Like, I really didn't like that song at all. So when I got to that,
fine.
and that, it's just the vocals to me, it just kind of, it sounded like Herbie from Buckethead Land 2, but like, it's just like taking itself really seriously. That's what I got from that, and that kind of soured the album for me a bit. And then he sort of, I think he does those vocals in Ice Cream Truck a bit more, but it just, for me, it kind of worked a bit more. Yeah. And then it sort of slowly picked up the pieces after that, but that was sort of a big drop-off for me. But yeah, I thought it was overall pretty good. There was just a couple like startling lows. Like, it's only like the vocals. It was sometimes for me like this fits the song really well. But then other times I'm just like, dude, like stop talking and just let me hear the instrumental. Like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But overall, I would say I enjoyed it. Other than like that song and like, there's a couple other vocal moments I didn't like, but I don't remember what song.
Yeah. Jamie Stewart is the guy's name. It is the vocals in this band.
Yeah.
And he, that's the most polarizing part of this band, like for sure, because it's this almost like preening, like ghouly kind of delivery that he does on a lot of these songs. That I like when I first heard this band, I did not like either. I thought it was incredibly annoying. But like, you know, the more I kind of delved in, especially to this album, like of all I've heard from Juju, this is their best album.
Okay.
And like it to me, but it fit in with the like with that disturbing like surreal vibe on this album that I got.
Yeah, like what he's saying and the way he's saying it does fit in. And like I did like his vocals sometimes. It was just sort of off and on for me.
For sure, yeah. It's not like it's definitely not pleasing the way he's singing, but again, but I think that like for the subject matter and it wouldn't be appropriate if it was, right. Like I couldn't see Whitney Houston singing over this or something. Like it almost like has to be some variant of that. That it doesn't have to be exactly that, but it has to be off kilter in some way. And so I think that it delivers for this particular album. Again, I could see the vocal style like being incredibly irritating if it was like if it was in another context, but here like it for me it worked. But this is an album where I can totally understand like people despising it because it is very it's just odd, and it's polarizing. But again, I like that about it, that it's not compromising anything at all. I think it's a very they're really committing to the vision to me. The whole clan. I don't know how many people are in this band, but I liked that. Yeah, they were just really committing to. We're gonna do this super experimental, odd vibe, and like and the vocals are gonna be we're not gonna try and temper that with the vocals. We're gonna lean into that with the vocals, because often vocals are used as like a mitigating force against.
Yeah, they're using it to further like emphasize the vibe the album's going for, rather than offset it. Exactly. I think that's what they're trying to say. Yeah. Yeah, this was the
anyway,
one that had the most mixed reaction to. Like, I didn't feel one way or another. I felt kind of both ways about it.
Hey, well, that's like a basket of fruit. You're gonna like some of the fruit in there, and other fruits you're gonna want to chuck them at old people.
Yeah. What's your least favorite fruit?
My least favorite fruit. Probably papaya. I've always found
I was gonna say papaya. That's funny because you think it's cantaloupe, and then you take a bite, and it's just the worst. Like,
yeah, I've never been a papaya guy.
yeah, I never got into yams.
Really? You don't like sweet potato?
Nah, I just rather have a regular potato or just like an actual like sweet fruit. I feel like it's like in the middle. Like I'd rather have one or the other.
Oh wow, I love yam.
Yeah.
I'll go out on a limb and say I'm a yam fan.
Yeah, fair enough.
As
We
interesting
should
as
do that.
this
Next
is.
talk should be top 5 fruits, top 5 citrus fruits.
Yeah, we could just review fruit on the next one. That's a good idea.
I think people would be more interested in that, to be honest.
Hey, why not? Let's give it a whirl. Food related.
Yeah.
podcast.
Do food reviews. That's we could do we could each be in cars at like drive-throughs and then like Wendy's or something.
We should do it where like we are at this like different locations of the same restaurant. We order the same thing, and then we see like how different like the meal is prepared at each location. Like like on Instagram Live. What a great idea!
Yeah, it was a weird food challenge. And we can also each ask for like a substitution and then see which restaurant like messes it up. Like just order something like really specific.
Yeah. I like this. We got to keep this in mind.
Yeah, I'll write that down. So I got my number 2 album.
Yes. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is it's a side project of the illustrious Dance Gavin Dance. Has everyone except the lead singer. It is a secret band, and the album is correctly titled LP2. I like everything about this album. It scratches kind of a Dillinger Escape Plan itch that I've been having, that Dillinger hasn't been providing me the scratch to. The album cover, it's a painting by lead vocalist John Mess. I like the album cover. I think it captures the mood of the album. I like the lyricism a lot. I like that man's lyricism. It's sort of absurdist, surreal, nonsense, sort of nihilistic. I enjoy that. And it's sort of like the evil twin to DGD, and I think they pull it off well. Like, I don't know, Lightning, the ending is nuts. And Do It Again. And very good instrumentation. And there's sort of some ideas that they never really explore in DVD that are super heavy. So I really enjoyed it. And there's some sort of clean vocal stuff and Rabbit Hole, which is cool. And it gives a lyricist I really like a chance to shine. And it's a smooth 39 minutes. Because it does sort of beat you into that like submission. It's sort of, I'm exhausted after I listen to this all the way through. But I think it kind of ends at just the right time where I'm on the ground and they've kicked me a couple times, but it's okay, it's enough. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on LP2.
Yeah, I definitely got the Dillinger vibe. Also, I mean, it came off a little bit Dillinger light to me. It's definitely there. It was like a more post-hardcore influence version, maybe.
It's like a Dillinger GD hybrid kind of.
Yeah. But I actually really liked the first track on here, Upgrades. I thought that was good.
Oh.
It gave me it did give me a Glassjaw vibe a little bit on that one.
And he just starts like yelling at the top of his lungs right at the start.
Yeah, which I thought was cool. I liked that as an opening track. Then, funnily enough, I also really liked the last song, Moon. I thought
Moon, okay. That's a good song.
Yeah, had some really good riffing in there. I mean, to me, it actually was maybe a little bit too long. Not to the same extent as like the Tech Death album and the Science album, but I do think that it could have used a little bit more like variation. I think the problem for me was the vocals were just monotonous. Because it's very one speed the whole time, and there's very little of the music on here that isn't covered by the vocals, at least from what I can remember from when I did my listen to it. So
There's a lot of instrumental segments, yeah.
yeah, so it's which I think would have benefited the album if it had had less, if the vocals, even it's fine if they just want to be one style, but if they had like been used a little bit more sparingly throughout,
Yeah.
it would have been to the benefit of the whole thing, right? Because then they would maybe mean a little more when they came in, and it lets the instrumental, because the instrumental section is impressive. It would let them shine a little more if they weren't covered up by the sort of one note screaming that you get on this thing. So I liked it, but it was a little bit like I guess before I even say that though, like this is is this a joke band? Is this a project that's sort of like a goof for these guys? Like, are they're not taking this seriously, really, are they? Like,
I think it's a serious project. I don't think because they have Dance Gavin Dance, so it's not like we need this band to be huge. So I think it's something they do for fun.
mm-hmm.
And like the lyrics, like from this guy, like they're always jokey, even on DGD. So like I think it's a band that doesn't take itself seriously, but I think they're trying to make the music good. Like, that's probably the best way to put it. Yeah.
I think they're trying to make it good, but it seems to me it's more like a passion project, really, more than So in that sense, I'm not surprised that they're kind of just like doing like 11 or 12 of like kind of the same song, because it's like a fun diversion.
What they're like.
So yeah, it's not like they're trying to create something that defines a genre or something. They're just kind of having fun. And that results in some really good songs, I think, too, I just mentioned. But I do think that it gets a little bit, just a little bit monotonous. Like it could use either less vocals or like something else. Like it just needs a couple more ingredients there to like really make it take off. But I didn't hate it. Like, I'm not a Dance Gavin Dance guy, as you know. Like I liked this definitely more than I liked DGD.
Yeah, well, I threw that in there because, I did. I was interested in sort of in your opinion of like the band like without Killian, because like he does sort of have a polarizing voice. So and this, I don't know, John Mess on here, he sounds like way more unhinged on like this than any of the DGD. They sort of like let him loose. It's like they sort of just give him one verse and like new Dance Gavin Dance songs, and like then they sort of put him back in his box. That's all you hear from him. Yeah.
And he has a cool scream on that first track. I just wish it was a little bit like, again, just use a little bit more sparingly, which would have made the album a little better. But hey, what are you gonna do? I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, he is more. I feel like he's more sort of like creative, like rhythmically and like in cadence than he is sort of like in tone. So he sort of is like a one-tone screamer, right?
Yeah.
I'm usually more like impressed by I don't know, some of the stuff he says is nonsense, but it's like fun to think about, like if that makes sense. And then he'll sort of scream in like a cool rhythm, like with the songs. But it is sort of, he has one or two gears, and that's really about it. It's true.
Yeah. So funnily enough, I think DGD have the right idea of pairing him with a real singer. I think that's probably actually the right way to go. Unfortunately, they've got who they have as their real singer, who is.
I do prefer their older singers.
But anyway, yeah. So okay, cool.
So we got to hear your album of the year.
Yeah, I can do my number one. So my number one, again, we're just continuing with this theme of just like freaking people out. This album is similar to something like The Origin of My Depression, in that it is just unsettling to the core. It is intense, but it's also really ambitious. Like the scale of this album is a lot grander than a lot of what you see in the genre, and also a lot of what came out this year, just in general. So it's Lingua Ignata's Caligula.
Okay, I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah. So I first heard Lingua Ignata would have been, oh gosh,
You've been a
back
fan for a while.
yeah, like back when I think All Bitches Die was her last release, and like when, and so that album was like a self-release thing. Put it on Bandcamp, and I found that through the grapevine, and I listened to that, and I was kind of blown away by that album. And then she ended up getting signed to, I think, Profound Lore. I don't know, what one of those. Sorry.
Record label? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's a label. Yeah, she got signed to something. I think that anyway, like a relatively known label, and then reissued that album.
Yeah.
And now this is kind of the first album she really put out on a label. But it is just it's intense. It's her vocals change between these sort of very choral, very melodious oohs and ahs, and she has a very like classically nice singing voice. And then she also has this wicked scream, which is kind of like a Diamanda Galas. I mean, not as
I did get that vibe from her that she sort of shares some like musical similarities and like almost just mood to Diamanda.
Yeah, she's been called the new Diamanda because at this point Diamanda's like 70 something. But yeah. So there's definitely like some ancestry going on there, some influence. But anyway, I mean, and also similarly to her, they both play piano, so there's lots of nice piano playing on here. Whereas, so All Bitches Die, her last album was a mix of like almost kind of medieval flavored piano and vocal music with this noisy assault kind of.
I even got a bit of that here, like not a lot.
Well,
but,
yeah, that's where I'm going with this. Is that on that album, the biggest issue with it for me was it was a little bit disparate, the way that it didn't blend totally great. The mix of those genres wasn't like executed like as well as it could be. It was a little bit off balance still, minorly. But on this one, that's largely corrected. Actually, like it's a much more fluid mixture of those, which is not an easy thing to do. That's a very hard thing to accomplish, to mix two genres that are so different from one another together. Something that actually.
And I will say, like, sort of a lot of the songs have like a sort of a slowly building dynamic, like some momentum, and it does like transition very smoothly into the darker, heavier parts where she does screaming and everything, right? I do. I don't find it too like jarring or sort of mashed together or anything.
Yeah, for sure. It is like it's well thought out to me, and it also introduces like some almost more like metal elements in some of the tracks that weren't on the previous release. And I just thought it was great. I just thought it was really accomplished. It's a really ambitious album. It maybe is slightly a little long. It may be a little long in some of the ideas, but it's aggressive. It does not take any punches. It is, again, not an easy listen at all. But God, it's really good. And I don't know. I'm hard pressed to think of a better album that kind of came out this year in terms like what it was going for and how close it got to accomplishing that for me. And
fair enough.
Yeah.
My thoughts. I'll say what I liked. I think she's a really good singer. I think she has a great voice. I think she's a good screamer. She's a great vocalist all around. She can do a few different things really well. Some of the arrangements are like gorgeous, sort of these sparse piano parts, and they build up into sort of these like massive, dense sort of. Is it death industrial like noise? I don't I don't know the genre to sort of give this, but
Yeah. We can say it's a death industrial album. That's
yeah.
appropriate.
For me, it's too long. It's like near the end, like I hate to say it. Oh wow, there's only 30 seconds remaining.
Okay.
Should we? Do you want to leave and then come back immediately? Like,
Yeah. Let's just do that.
I'll just talk about this at the end. All right,
Okay.
I'm gonna end it quick.
Okay. All right, we're back.
Yeah. It was just saying it was just gonna end the whole stream in 20 seconds.
No.
I don't think we could get through all that in 20 seconds. I can't talk that fast.
We can follow this off in the next little bit.
This is me. I'm talking about Caligula by Lingua Ignota. What was I saying?
Yeah.
Really good singer, really good vocalist. Arrangements are beautiful. I found it just too long for me near the end. I was just kind of like, come on, like, let's. I've listened to like a lot of this. I want to listen to something else. It could have used a 20-minute cut for me. Just like the idea is presented. I read a bit about it. She's like a victim of domestic violence or something.
Yeah.
The album and All Bitches Die are like kind of reflective of her experiences with that. So I think it does match. It describes it really well. Like it's like the tone matches sort of what this woman has been through, and I think that's incredible. Some of it I just felt like it got kind of samey after a while. Like I felt there's sort of two gears where it's sort of this like sparse, beautiful piano, and like she's singing and it sounds really nice, and then it builds up, and then I found that formula was used a few too many times just from a purely musical aspect. So it works well, it's done well, but like I wanted sort of a few more ideas in an album of this runtime for me. I think like every song on its own is good. It's more like all put together. I wanted to hear a couple of different things. I think there is a song that sort of has a swing rhythm that solves that problem, and it's placed really nicely. And I think that's Days, Years, and Morning, because it sort of has that like swaying drum beat. I think it's that song.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and that was my favorite song because like it doesn't really sound like the rest of them, right? And that I could have used like a few more diversions like that, right? And that's sort of what's stopping me. Like I think it's good, but I don't think like it's incredible. Like I wanted more things to sort of come out like that. I liked the song titles and I liked her lyrics a lot too. But yeah, it was just it felt bleak and just long, and I felt kind of drained at the end, despite sort of all the content being of high quality. The same for me with this, like as you felt with Terraformer and Demergius. I don't know how to pronounce that. I think this could have been done as like a fourth pretty well. Yeah. That's my like dissenting opinion on that. Yeah, but I see like why like people really like it, and like I could see why it's your album of the year. Like I can appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I also see why like it could be too long for some people. Like it is long. It is it's over an hour, and like frankly, like it's not a perfect album to me, right? Like it's like a 4.5 or 9 out of 10. For me, because I do think it does go on a little bit long. But versus some of those other albums, like for me, this one mostly, like much more often than not, like introduces enough little subtleties and kind of like variants to like keep it interesting for like
Fair enough.
almost the entire runtime.
And you've dug your teeth into this like way more than I have. I've listened to it front to back once, and then I sort of went and listened to some select songs after. So it's yeah. And I feel like this is something you could kind of sort of pull more of the intricacies out. Like new stuff can appear, sort of with repeated listens, right?
Well, yeah, this is an album that like is definitely opens itself up on more than one listen. It is kind of an album that probably should be listened to not more than once, just because of the scale of it and the length and all that kind of stuff, right? It's just it is one of those records. Again, it's not perfect. And the other point about it is that it is like almost hyper emotive in spots, which is something in common with Diamant de Glace.
It is quite dramatic.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's almost like bordering on cringe sometimes because of how kind of, you know what I mean, like how unadorned it is, almost how like kind of emotionally honest it is. That is.
It's kind of like someone having like a breakdown at a restaurant, like.
Yeah, but I mean,
like a car crash you're watching, but like in a good way, like.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Like it makes you feel sort of like convulsive almost, but
yeah.
But like that's the whole point of what's being said. So like similar to the Juju album, like to deliver this subject matter, in any other way, in any kind of distilled form, like wouldn't do it a full service. So the idea is almost to make you kind of drained and feel like uncomfortable with kind of how naked the emotion is in there, right? And so I think that is pretty brave to put yourself out there like that. So I have to give it points for that. But there is like a mildly indulgent quality just to some of the lengths of some of the songs. Like that's the biggest complaint.
I think
that I would have with it.
The 9-minute song, that was sort of the biggest offender to me.
You know, it is really that's I think the best song on the album.
Fair enough. That's opinions for you.
Do You Doubt Me, Traitor, I think is the best one.
Because of Shades of Tears in the Morning.
Yeah, hey, yeah. I don't think any of them are bad. Again, it's more just like you said, it is a little bit, maybe a little long. But anyway, I think it's great. So that's all I have to say about that one. So I mean, we can go to your number one now, and
I was just gonna comment. I think with like the 4 of your 5 albums, they sort of they have different ways of making you like feel uncomfortable, right? And I think for where we differ, it's sort of which album of those we think does that the best. And I guess for you, it's Lingua, and then out of yours, I'd have to go with the Euboea album. For me, I think it's the perfect length, and that's sort of like I feel like about that Euboea album that you do about Caligula. I can't not say that.
I mean, hey, I put Euboea on mine. I mean, I love the Euboea record too, right?
Yeah.
I think they're both really good. So it's a matter of like inches here, where they're both great. I mean, I don't know. What's your number one? I gotta know.
My album of the year is Bandana by Freddie Gibbs and Madlib. I had to go with this. It was tough kind of picking between this and Secret Band, but it was like the Clear Soul Forces. Which do I go back to more? Yeah. Bandana. I think every song on it is great, and they all sort of stand out from one another. All the production is amazing. Like Madlib's really good at this. It's sort of the sequel to their previous album, Pinata. Sort of has some boom bap, some jazz rap. There's a lot of sort of like turntable, like vinyl popping that he puts in the songs. That's really sick. Great features in this from Pusha T, Anderson .Paak, Killer Mike. It's I just think it's like a boom bap jazz rap like clinic, like how to do this like to the top level. and I think it's his best album, and it's the one I've listened to like the most from 2019, just over and over again. And it's like the one I can kind of pull the most highlights from. And yeah, I love it. I'm curious to hear what you thought of this, because I know you don't listen to one.
Well, yeah, this is probably the one of your 5 that I have the least to say about, just because it is. I think it's good. I can't fault this album in really anything it does. I mean, I think it's, for what it is, it's very accomplished. And I almost feel similarly about this album the way I did about To Pimp a Butterfly.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I mean, it's good. I appreciate it. I get it. Like, I get the hype. I kind of understand why it's so loved. But it's just like, on a personal level, it just doesn't click with me, because again, it's just I generally don't get a lot of the hip hop. It's a genre that like just doesn't like do much for me most of the time, and so that's kind of falls under that category for me, where I've been trying to think like over the last little like few days about like why that is, and I don't know. I just it's kind of even from the beginning of like when I first started listening to music, like I was never drawn to hip hop. Like it was never.
Yeah.
I can see why it's like the zeitgeist now. Like I get it. But I just don't connect with it on like on an emotional level, really. And this is not all hip hop again. Like,
yeah, you don't like. It doesn't always have to be like a reason that like you can verbalize, right? Like it's, you know, I like how X sounds, I don't like how Y sounds. Like it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't always have to kind of go past that, right? Like,
well, and the other thing is, to me, is it's not even that I don't like how it sounds. Like I think it sounds fine. It's just it's just sort of like it doesn't
draw you in.
Yeah, it doesn't really. Hip hop is rarely, I shouldn't say never, like it's rarely drawn me in, and I don't know. I really am. I can't. It's an emotional reaction, I guess, which is annoying because I want to be able to explain it, but without like giving it more thought, I can't do it. So this is, I think, a really good album from like every qualitative standpoint that I could think of.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a subjective thing. I completely understand that.
Yeah. I should say quantitative. Yeah. Anyway,
like there's some genres I feel that way, like sort of like industrial metal. Like I could never really get into. Yeah. I couldn't even really say why. It's just sort of like the way it sounds. Like I can like sort of put on my like objective like Anthony Fantano glasses and be like, this is good, these parts are good, but it's just like not something I would go back to all the time. So like I get what you're trying to say.
I might have just had a breakthrough. This just popped into my head now. This might be totally wrong. I think the reason you don't like it, I can go for both of us. I think you aren't big into industrial metal because it's repetitive. Like I think you tend to like stuff that has movement to it, like Tech Death and like hard, like Dance Gavin Dance, and like stuff that has a lot of kind of energy to it.
That is
most industrial. Yeah, like most industrial metal is like
it has a hypnotic quality to it.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like very churning. It's like it's not like quite doom metal or anything, but it is deliberately like whacking over the head over and over again, right? Like a Godflesh or something. So I mean, I suspect that's why you're not into a lot of industrial metal, but again, I don't know.
I like kind of the more like sort of pure death industrial stuff you showed me, just because it leans into that direction fully. So like it sort of like it explores that more deeply. Where in like I find industrial metal, it sort of explores two genres like kind of like skin deep, like not very much, right? But that's my opinion. But but I don't know. I liked what you showed me. It's sort of like stuff music did that I haven't heard it been done before. I butchered that sentence. Yeah.
I know what you're saying though.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, and death industrial, I get, like, is different from industrial metal in that, like, it's kind of a bad genre name, death industrial. There's not really an industrial thing. I mean, it's also called dark noise, death industrial.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's actually like a more appropriate name for it, where it's really like, it's like a subset of power electronics, death industrial at the end of the day. Like, where industrial has electronics and whatever, there's a little overlap, but
It's sort of like
there isn't
harsh
the same-
industrial.
yeah, there isn't the same like commitment to repetition and kind of what you know,
It has more movement. Like it's
yeah,
sort of it's
yeah.
always sort of like changing. It's sort of like it's like a virus, like adapting. I don't know. Like it's like how I feel when I listen to this stuff. It's like it's sort of like some sort of like virus cell like adapting to its environment. Kind of. It sounds kind of evil, right? So that. It's like the Zardoz thing, sort of like where I'm at when I'm listening to it. Like,
yeah. Well, and I think for me, I think the reason that hip hop never clicked with me is that, like, I'm an extremely selfish person, and so I tend to, when I listen to these, like, imagine myself playing it, right? Like, that's part of.
oh,
like,
dude,
what
I do too all the time. But
yeah, so it's like I imagine, like, if I was playing this song, and like I cannot imagine myself like playing a hip hop song, like rapping or anything like that. Like, that is not like even in like my wildest fantasy, I know that's never gonna happen. So like,
yeah,
I can't connect with it on that like performative level of like I want to imagine myself.
yeah, you're listening to
doing
it,
this.
and you want to put yourself in the music, and like maybe you have like the music video in your head while you're listening to it, right? Like,
Yeah, or I imagine I'm like playing to like 1,000 people, and it's like, am I going to be on stage like playing this rap song? Like, is that going to be me? Like, no. So like, there's like an inherent distance from most rap between me and the song, right? That like I can't get over.
I think a lot of people like have that fantasy like more than they would admit.
yeah.
But like I have it, you have it. I think a lot of people do. Like I actually do have it with rap, but you know, of course, like these rap songs, they say stuff like I probably wouldn't say. I usually I just like my fantasy listening to Bandana is like I'm the guy who like did all the instrumentals. That's sort of where I'm at with this kind of stuff. Like,
yeah, and I mean, and that, like, with something like a Death Grips, pull up the most thing that popped into my head, like, or even like some of the Wu-Tang Clan songs, or you know, like anything that has like a really heavy, like some of the Danny Brown, even like some of the where the instrumentals like have a really big role in what's going on. Like I can connect more with in hip hop, and I know those are like very like mainstream picks I just threw out, but like I don't know much about hip hop. So like, yeah.
Well, it's Sauce the Exhibition by Danny Brown. That's like a pretty out there album. Like just as its own piece. Like it's those beats are pretty wild, and they like the instrumentals on that album. They do exactly as you say. They sort of they dictate more of the music's proceedings than a lot of rap albums.
Yeah, and so I think that is like the key reason why I can't get into rap like as much as I might want to. And so I don't know. So getting back to Bandana, I think it's good. It's not an album that I ever am ever gonna have a real urge to listen to, just because it is.
Yeah, that's the way you feel.
Yeah, it's like looking at a fish tank. Like I know I can never go in there. Like I like it. It's nice. I can admire it. Like it's very pretty, but like, do I ever want to spend a whole bunch of time studying it? Like not really.
Time and money managing it and worrying about it. Yeah, cleaning it.
So I mean that's my thoughts. But I mean I get why it's a number one pick. Like it's good.
Yeah, and a lot of. Or which albums am I going back to the most? Because it's hard to rank stuff like this because all the genres are so different, right? Like, what do you use as like your qualifier to sort of rank so many like polarizingly different kinds of music? And for me, I just go to it's like how much do I listen to it? How much do I just go to that album and do it like just purely for fun, not for like critical purposes, like right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess for me, like it's not always replayability is
Yeah.
one aspect of it, but you know, there are albums that I think are amazing that like I want to listen to like once in a while. Like I don't want to go listen to the Seer all the time, but like when I want to put it on, I think it's great. But it's like
I've had that exact conversation with Josh about this year. That's funny
oh,
you
really?
mentioned that. That's like this is a great album, but it's like I never like want to listen to the Seer, especially like the Seer, the song. It's like 30 minutes. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing like my life span like a disservice. I'm listening to the Seer all the time, and that sounds like an indictment on it, but it's really not. Like it's just because it's such an experience, right? Like.
Well, yeah.
And that's not an album you can like take songs from and like just throw them in playlist too. Like
it's like watching Lawrence of Arabia. Like you're not gonna like put that on every weekend and like chill out and listen to it. But like
you can't listen to it passively either, right?
yeah, but then when you actually sit down and like devote your attention to it, you're like, wow, that's actually amazing. But it's just like it's rare that you have that chunk of time that you can devote to it. Which is not, again, for me, like, that doesn't mean that it's an album that is any worse than, like, you know, Japanese hardcore punk that's 26 minutes long that I can, like, throw a song on here. Like, they're different. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think we covered our list. So we have a collective top 10 of 2019. And, you know what, I think what I'll do is... like I'll post all the album covers on like our special page. You guys, if you're watching, you should follow at Happy Fun Music Time. Post just like little updates, maybe some album reviews, whatever. I'll do a little summary of what we talked about today. So yeah, like I think it went well. We'll do episode 5 soon, which I think is going to be another interview. But I don't know if we can reveal a guest yet.
Yeah, we shall see. We have some on the fence individuals in said band, even though they're our homies and they have some burdens. Like we,
that's people just carry too many burdens sometimes, you know. And that,
God, like I don't know. It's a bit of a quarter life crisis, but like we'll see who we can get on. Yeah. Anyway, we will
stop taking pictures and get to being on the podcast.
Sorry. Yes.
Also, the end of episode reveal, who recommended Indigo? That was Sanjay Kumbare. You can follow him at PrinceDinesh24. Send him a message telling him how bad Indigo Extended Edition is.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that.
For a prize, but yeah.
I will be messaging him. Yeah, I don't even know him, and I'm going to message him and be like, thanks for making me waste 2.5 hours of my life. He'd be like, who are you?
Yeah, but he deserves it more than anyone I know. So, yeah. All right.
Anyway, there was that episode. That was pretty good. That was fun. I hope so. You'll put it up on YouTube. Hopefully, the audio quality is acceptable.
Yeah. So what's gonna happen? I'm gonna export these. I'm gonna try and do a little audio mix, and then I'll throw them up on YouTube. Might be in a couple parts, but they'll be up there. And then people can watch this episode however much they like. All right. Well, nice talking, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And I have spoken more than I've spoken all week, so I gotta go.
Yeah, my throat hurts. Okay, we will be back soon with maybe an interview, maybe something else.
All right. Bye.